Hi, it's John Sheeley with Tax Practice Pro here with Fred Stein in California and Ellie Jones in Cincinnati. This is an update for the changing COVID-19 tax landscape, updates for tax professionals. Our point of today's presentation is to update you on information we've previously provided, most recently last Saturday. If you do want to catch those two items, they are available. Those two-hour webinars are available for free right now without continuing education credit up on our Jamie Hammer. Press F5. Hold up your sign, Ellie, for Jamie. You can watch either one on our Facebook channel, and we will give you those that web address later in today's presentation. You are eligible to get two continuing education credits. You're eligible to get one continuing education credit today. There'll be two polling questions. You need to answer both, and you need to be on for 50 minutes. These aren't my rules, but they are the rules of NASBA and the Internal Revenue Service. Fred's bio, Ellie's bio, my bio. If you would like a copy of the handouts, in the upper right-hand corner of the section screen, you should see the Handouts tab. If you click that tab in there, you should see 3 handouts, a copy of the PDF of the slides, and 2 other items that will be referenced later in the program. CE will be issued within 1 week of today. And as I said, you'll get 1 credit. The CE comes from Simple Cert. If you don't see that in a week, give a call or send an email here to the office, and we'll be happy to help you. And I think, Ellie, you're up.
So the first thing to know is this isn't a review. We put a link for Fred's presentation last week on the business stuff related to CARES, like the employer retention credit. And this link is also good for the presentation last week on the individual for CARES. What this is going to be is sort of like a breaking news of things that have happened this week in the Taxlandia. And that leads me to all the news that broke yesterday, which was quite a bit. The first one is that most tax returns are now due, or payments are now due July 15th, 2020. So for many of us who thought that the second estimated tax payment was going to be due June 15th, they've now pushed it to July 15th. Gift, estates, trust corporations, and other non-corporate filers are now due. If you have someone who is still waiting to file their 2016 tax return for a refund, they now have until July 15th. And then I know a lot of people were wondering, well, do we have to file the form to request an extension by April 15th? No. File it by July 15th. That gets you 3 extra months to October 15th. And this does include the 1040 NRs. And I put a little bulletin there, applies to tax forms and tax payments, not information returns. So for like those of us who deal with FBARs, that is still due April 15th. However, the statute for FBAR says that it is automatically extended to October 15th without penalties. There seems to be some debate if this notice included the Form 990, because 990 is actually an informational return. The notice itself, 2020-23, only specifically said 990T. There is a document in the handout from the IRS stakeholder liaison that says that combined with another notice, Form 990s for nonprofits are included and extended until July 15th. It's also important to know that payments and forms will not be penalized up to July 15th. So if somebody waits till July 16th, boom, kicks in. And that takes us to Fred, who's going to talk about the much more difficult stuff.
I thought you were going to go much longer than that.
Nope.
Oh, good Lord. All right. Partnership amendments. First thing I want to ask everybody is how many knew that if you were part of the BBA, that if you did not elect out of the centralized audit regime, that you could not amend a Form 1065, that once you filed it, you are done unless you file for an AAR. So partnerships subject to the centralized audit regime are now able to amend their returns. Normally, they were not allowed to under the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2015. Right now, BBB, thank you, Mark. BBB, BBA, Now you can either amend both your 2018 or 2019 returns. And when you do that amendment, it supersedes that return and it becomes your new original type return. Only partnerships that filed the 1065 and provided all K1s for the years 18 and 19 may amend. So if you didn't give everybody the K1s, and I don't know why you wouldn't be able to amend. These amendments must be done by the September 30th of this year's deadline. And with all of these changes that we get, you got to put Revenue Proc 2020-23 on both the return and the K1s.
Hey, Fred, let me ask you one thing. Even though that was the 2015 Budget Act, the inability to amend was only effective 2018, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so even though it wasn't a TCJA item, it was effective for 2018 tax years.
Yes, and it changed all those fun, tougher rules that are extremely confusing. And when we want to talk about this in relation, it's not necessarily what we're doing now, but on the returns this past year for 2019, there is a way to elect out of these rules, and making the decision to opt out or remain is a very big decision that I don't think a lot of tax pros understand.
It's almost a 1 hour webinar now that we were talking about that today.
It is. And for the longest time, it took me forever to understand it. I'd asked you a ton of questions. I've asked other people tons of questions. And literally about 6 months ago is when it finally clicked on me how it works. So it's not a simple understanding, but it is something you should understand if you are filing partnership returns.
It's also one of those things where the facts and circumstances, based on everything available to me today, this is the best course of action. Let's get everybody to sign off on it. Because if there's something goes wrong later, oh man, we shouldn't have done that. Well, at the time it made sense.
Yeah. For a brief understanding of what it is, it's gonna be very quickly. If you don't opt out, what happens is if the partnership gets audited, then it gets audited at the partnership level. And then if there are any taxes assessed or anything assessed to it, it gets paid at the partnership level at the highest individual rates. Where if you opt out, then it flows down to each and every single partnership in the return. So for smaller partnerships, it may make sense. As you get larger partnerships and different facts and circumstances come in, where there may be a sale mid-year or not, as John said, those become facts and circumstances to determine what you're going to do. But if you don't understand how this works, you could be doing your clients a big disservice. All right. Net operating losses. All right. NOLs from a taxable year that began during 18 and ended on or before June 30th of 2019, you have until June 30th of this year to file refund requests. And you have fun doing the math of the before and after and all that. So the way that we get these refunds, we're going to use the form 1045 for individuals, trusts, and estates, and then the form 1139 for corporations. I like this next part of the slide. IRS must process within 90 days.
Must.
Which 90 days? EA's 3 days?
They're using the EIDL 3-day parameter terms. Okay. And then, of course, you're going to write notice 2020-26, extension of time to file for application of tentative carryback adjustment on the top of the form.
Hey, Fred, we should have done a slide before this maybe. Why is all of a sudden it important that we have this NOL relief? What happened last year?
There were a lot of losses.
Yeah, well, but before that, what law change happened?
I love when you do this, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act.
Yeah.
Please give me some multiple choice answers here.
Can he phone a friend?
Took away most net operating losses.
So.
Right? You had to only carry forward. So
Correct.
all of a sudden, during the pandemic, we're saying, well, maybe we should put cash in your pocket and we're going to give you NOLs again for a period of time.
Yes. And we're not going to answer a lot of questions during this part of it, but I do want to answer Ms. Keats. We do not know if you can opt out if the partnership has trust partners. I haven't delved that deeply into that aspect of of the TEFRA and the centralized audit regimes. But as John said, that would be a 1-hour webinar. So NOLs Part 2. If corporation deadline to file a refund claim for minimum tax credit for 2018. Your deadline is the end of this year. So basically, I believe that's where it all comes forward. If you had minimum tax credits before that are carrying forward. If you do not want to carry back 2018 and 2018 NOLs, you must make an election to carry it forward. Okay. The old rules before the Tax Cut and Job Act was it would automatically be carried back unless you opted out. And that was always a fun situation when you get a new client and you notice they had a loss the prior year and they didn't elect to carry it forward or whatnot. And now you know you got to go back 3 years and fix the prior practitioner's mistakes. And with everything else, you must attach the election to the 2020 return. You must state electing to apply 172B3 under Rev Proc 2020-24 in the taxable year. We're going to assume that everybody's tax programs are going to place these elections on top once you click the appropriate checkbox. So let's hope that all occurs. And once you make the selection, you cannot change it. He's got
Stimulus checks.
Oh, yes. Okay. This is still me, isn't it?
It is.
It is. The recovery rebate or the economic impact payment. And, we're going to have breaking news again with this, I'm sure, tomorrow. Checks are starting to go out either today or early next week based on where you're reading your information from. They are going to be in various waves of how they're going out. The second wave is supposed to be no later than April 20th. And then there's going to be a third wave where they're going to start mailing payments out. I believe they're putting the mail payments out a little later because they're going to get the site up in another week or so, I'd imagine, where we can put in our direct deposit information for those that haven't given it to the IRS, so we can hopefully get it direct deposited. All right. Seniors receiving Social Security disability, and those receiving veterans benefits who do not need to file normally, do not need to file anything. They are going to get their stimulus check, their rebate check, or whatever we're calling it today, automatically.
The technical term is economic impact payments.
I'm not always technical. The EIP return. This is where, when it first came out, we all thought, oh, good Lord, now we got to file returns for all those no need to file return people that we track. Well, we don't need to do that. Mr. Fitzsimmons' IRS site for the direct deposit is up today. Is it active, Chris? And did you call my staff to find that answer? All right. Those with low income that did not need to file and are not included, they don't get Social Security, they don't get any disability, they don't have any veterans benefits, they need to file these returns that they normally would not have to file. And that site to file these returns is up at the IRS website today. So you can go there and you can get this stuff started. Whether we're going to do these for our clients or whether we refer them out, that's going to be an individual decision. I don't think I want to do 100 of these returns for, the minimal amount that we're going to charge for these people. One of the software vendors has already updated this software for this. We're not going to mention their name because we don't do that. TurboTax has one up there as well. And IRS is going to have a site where it says, where is my EIP payment, similar to where's my refund? That is not up yet. That will be up.
It's supposed to be up by next week or the week after. So since direct deposits are starting to go out, people should be able to start going in and check on it.
Okay. The EIP Portal. Okay, we were talking about that. It's created a portal for non-filers to enter that information. That, as we said, is up. And that is for those who aren't required to file and don't receive Social Security or RRB 1099s. Keep in mind that if you are supposed to file a tax return, if you're above that 12,200 limit, if you're above the filing limit, this portal is not for you. This is not for those people who aren't filing and are going to go here. I don't know whether the IRS is going to see your information on file and say you have a filing requirement and then not make you eligible, but it does state there that it's not for people that need to file. All right, enough with the Drake stuff. All right, you're going to enter your biographical information and your social security numbers. I'm not sure whether there's going to be one of those, identity verification checks here or not. I would imagine there might be.
You have to input your state issued ID.
Oh, yay. All right. See that? Thank you, Ellie. She's went in and looked at this stuff.
And for those I see saying, well, what about just entering direct deposit information? The press release on the EIP portal today said that their goal is to have it up in the next week or two.
So that means that Mr. Fitzsimmons was incorrect when he said it was up. There was just a link to a blank page.
Kathy Morgan already spanked all of them that said it was up. So
she's a good person.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. The non-filers, we're going to enter payment information to provide, add information to receive the economic impact payment. All right. This is what we stated before. If you had income that exceeds 12,200 as an individual or 24,400 for married couples, this is not for you. All right. This is for people that should not be filing normally. Okay. So it's basically if you were not required to file a return. It's going to be, I've looked through it just a little bit. There's a good FAQ page on there. It should be pretty easy to use. You must have a social security number in most cases. There is one situation where you can have an ITIN, and that is if you are married to a military member. Is that correct, Ellie?
Yes.
Yes. Say yes. You weren't paying attention. I got you.
I'm talking to David Triddle, who says that the state issued ID is not a compulsory field.
Okay. So again, this is all fluid.
You know, that may be true, but that goes back to the IRS Security Summit issues where they're relying, if there's too many badges of fraud on a return, they are relying on the state database. So it can't hurt you to put up your that government ID information and associate it with your account.
Correct. All right. This next slide, what to expect. I'm not going to read this for you. It's going to be pretty self-explanatory when you get there. I would imagine that 90% of our clients should be able to work their way through, and we all have those 10% of clients that are going to need assistance. And yes, you will need a valid working email address. If anybody's not aware, these are free at gmail.com.
Lifetime subscription.
Yes. And some of us may even have those old AOL emails. Okay, slide 22. Where'd that go? I don't see anything in my slide thing. It disappeared. 20. Okay, we're going to 23. Offsets. Everybody wants to know about offsets. All right. What is known is that if you do owe child support, they're going to take your money. Pay your child support. They won't take your money. And also federal crimes restitution. All right. All other blocks, unpaid student loans have been lifted from these payments. Unpaid federal debt may accidentally claim this income. Click on this link, read this procedurally taxing blog. It's pretty interesting. The way it's going to work is, especially in 2020, if you're getting it there, they're looking at these as kind of advanced payments against your taxes in some cases. So if you're getting your money in 2020 and you owe taxes during your 2020 return, it's not like they're gonna say, hey, you owe $3,000 over here, but we're giving you your $1,200, $2,400 or whatever over here. So you're not gonna get the money if you have a balance due on that file tax return. I can't imagine them doing that at all. Oops. All right, scams and repayments. There's no repayment of this credit. Okay, it's going to be reported on the income tax return. No, it will not be paid back. If you are eligible for more than you received, so it's relied on 2018 and 2019 data, If you get cut off because of income levels, because you didn't have a kid yet, you're having one in 2020, you may not get all you received. So it's still early. You guys can go out and still have kids now, have it a little early. You may get some extra $500 in this for the 2020 return. So what's going to happen is when you file your 2020 returns in 2021, we're going to true it up. And if you should be receive more, you will get more. If you shouldn't receive more, you are not going to have to pay it back. And as with every new law, as if everything that goes on, every issue that occurs in life, there are those dirtbags out there that are trying to scam the general public, and they tend to target the elderly. So be aware and let your clients know to be careful and to ask us first.
Yeah.
Well, it's something of a world record here. We are actually on time, like that song says, always on time. So I want to pop up the first polling question. We're going to ask 2 polling questions today. You do need to respond to both of them to get the 1 credit today. You don't have to answer it correctly. We sure hope that you will, because the Office of Professional Responsibility says that these questions should be reinforcing the learning that we're doing. To take advantage of the EIP portal, a taxpayer needs which of the following items? Social Security number, bank routing number, a state-issued ID, all of the above, some, but not all of the above.
And as mentioned in a previous webinar, if you are a presenter, you do not need to do these.
Oops.
Well, Fred, the part about you have to answer, you don't have to get them right, was directed at you, but
that's how we roll.
I put like cool little transition graphics on this, and they don't seem to be working.
oh, because here's what happens, Ellie. Instead of doing a screen share, which adds an extra level of problem, especially with multiple presenters, this gets converted and loaded up. So it's actually, for the folks at home, this is actually running on Big Marker's site, the imagery. Now, what we could do is we could run it as a video and upload it, but that would get more complicated. We're almost there. Just a couple more of you have to answer.
Wah, wah.
Wah, 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 wah. Okay, so I do want to share the answers with you. And so the majority of you did get this correct, and I kind of blew it here, right? I meant for it to be D, all of the above, a social security number, a bank routing and number, and a state issued ID. But the state issue ID is strongly recommended but not required. So really, almost all of you got D or E, all of the above or some of the above, and either is acceptable. So good job, everybody.
Thanks, Marie. I'm glad you figured out how I feel about this. Trying to be all creative. Okay. So now we're going to talk about unemployment compensation, and a couple of tax professionals that I hang out with have mentioned that the number of questions they've gotten about this has really gone up. We talk about it more in the webinar last Saturday that's now on the YouTube channel, but here are some of the unemployment compensation updates as of today. Here are some just basics on unemployment if you don't know it. Extended 13 weeks. So now that people get 39 weeks of coverage. It's available for those who don't typically receive it, such as self-employed and gig workers. The Department of Labor released guidelines on April 5th, which suggested that in certain fields, such as rideshare drivers, they may not be eligible because of what it means to be out of work due to COVID-19. The states, however, according to the DOL regulations, can determine if they want to open that up to certain kinds of people. So make sure to know your state guidelines. And then I put this map. It shows jobless change. It's from Bloomberg. I don't know what Minnesota and Nevada are doing, but they seem to be doing all right. So PUA stands for the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. That is the umbrella for the additional $600 a week, as well as the opening up to self-employed people. I had a question last time about farmers, so I looked into it. There is additional funding for commodities to help farmers recover some of the price through the CARES Act, and farmers are eligible to apply for the PPP loan and the EIDL grant. So if you have farmer clients and they want to know where they can get some money, that is something they can do. I have linked in here a link to a blog by Littler. Littler is a nationwide labor and employee law. I started following them. I get their daily updates every day in my email about unemployment and tax stuff, just so that if somebody asks me a question, I could be like, well, I don't know, but this is what I do know, or this is where you go. And what they're saying is that right now states are setting this up. It may take 30 days to enact. That's what CARES gave them. And CARES was done, what, the 27th? And then not available for people who are eligible for telework unless work is substantially less or care for someone or child, which means work cannot be completed. So, for example, I work from home for Fred, and I have a little first grader at home right now. Maybe I'm not able to do my work because I'm too busy taking care of my child. So I could apply for pandemic unemployment assistance. I would, however, have to tell Fred, I'm unable to do work for you anymore.
What?
Yeah. But that's not going to happen. I did post something actually on the COVID-19 Facebook page. We'll have the link for that at the end. I was messing around on the internet yesterday doing research, and I stumbled upon Ohio's pandemic unemployment assistance page, and they put in there how they're calculating what the minimum benefit is. It's important to know that you will have a minimum benefit for self-employed people, which is 50% of like the normal base. So like if the national average is $385, half of that is like what, $190? So that's the minimum benefit for self-employed people. And then you'll get the federal $600 on top of that. So a lot of states are starting to put up their pandemic unemployment assistance page. If your self-employed people are being like, what am I supposed to do? Direct them there. The 13 weeks extra is federally funded, not state funded. The $600 is not going to affect the employer rating. So if you have employers who are concerned that their SUTA rating is going to go up, it may because more people applying, but the extra $600 will not impact them. And then most states, John wanted me to mention this. He says most states will not send out mail to employers. Oh, I apologize. It's next slide. Most states will not send out mail to employers on PUA claims. So if you have self-employed people or part-time people or people who had to quit work because of COVID-19 reasons, the states are not going to say, hey, can you verify why this person worked? But remind your payroll and employer clients to check their mail because there was something like 16 million unemployment claims last week. So there's a lot of mail going out. This is what John wanted me to specifically mention. Some states do not mail out their 1099-Gs. I'm in Ohio. We have a large rural population. They mail out their 1099-Gs. So if you are in a state that does not, you may need to remind the clients come tax time. And then as a tax planning thing, how will this affect estimated tax payments, Most states do offer tax withholding. It's 10%. And then the other thing to think about is various local districts. Like I live in Ohio. In Ohio, many cities require you to file a city tax return every year. And then some cities do tax unemployment compensation and others don't. Like Cincinnati doesn't. But I don't know. There's like 600 taxing districts in Ohio. And then, John, did you want to jump in on here on tax season thoughts? Because I know you had some pretty strong opinions on this.
I don't know that I had any opinions. I mean, the big thing is if you look at how much time we spend doing some of this stuff, you have to look at your practice base for a minute. So if you have people who expect a refund, they're not going to get one this year, right? Because typically unemployment doesn't withhold enough. So
10%.
Yeah. So if the world and no state sometimes. So if the world and local taxes, I have no idea. They're all over the board. If things get better towards the end of the year, maybe you want to be communicating with your clients and let's protect your refund. Let's look at what I see what she wrote. Look at your refund. And ensure that you have happy folks next tax season. The other thought was that, as you already hit on, was the 1099s is having people get them. And we've been texting everybody about things, and half the client base likes a text, half the client base likes an email. But that's probably going to be something that once they schedule their appointment, that's going to be a reminder. Hey, if you got unemployment, you need to go download the 1099. from the state website. Just make my life easier when they drop stuff off or upload it.
And use your social media. We at BQ have been using this website called Canva, CANVA.com, to make infographics, which we put on our social media about certain things. But, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. Some practitioner tips. Review your state's guidelines. Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services, who runs our unemployment compensation, has been posting on Facebook and Twitter things that people who are applying for unemployment compensation should know. So you can link to that on your social media. One thing is always cool to say to clients, because we are not labor law attorneys. We are not employee law attorneys, unless you are, because there are some people on here who might be. This is outside my wheelhouse. Most cities and counties, their bar associations will have a website where they have a list of attorneys. If one of your clients, for example, wants to know, should I lay off my employee so they get better unemployment benefits? That's a question for a labor law attorney. If you don't have one that you're comfortable referring people to, you can send them to the city or county bar association, and they should be able to find one. And then, like I said, follow your state's agency on social media. They've got lots of updates. And that does it for me.
Oh, is this me now?
This is you now.
IRS updates. So just one quick thought. We had, from a good source, I know there's a letter out there. I haven't been able to get a copy of it yet, where Commissioner Rettig announced that two Internal Revenue Service employees in New York had died of COVID-19, and they were going to cut down the ability of the employees to go to the post office and a whole bunch of things. I haven't seen that notice yet. If we get it, we'll put it out to you to understand what changes they're going to make. But it's very sad that folks pass away from this disease, that maybe they contract it in their line of work. So what's closed? It would have been easier to say what's open. Everything is closed. Everything is closed. Practitioner priority line, you get a message that says something to the effect of, we're not home right now, and we don't expect to be soon. The Ogden CAF had been open, central authorization file had been open up until last week. They just closed that down. Roger Nemeth tells us that the fax machines are now offline too, principally because they have physical fax machines in a lot of these departments at the IRS. If you fax it to an employee, it is an e-fax, but otherwise a general fax number is a machine. They can't reload the paper, they can't reload the toner. So I would say, since they've been closed, probably anything you sent went nowhere. We couldn't confirm it, but there's reports that mail is being returned from the IRS. If you send it to smaller offices, if you send it to your local revenue agent for an exam, there's no one there to get the mail. It's going to come back. They still have some essential personnel at some of the larger service center campuses, so mail is probably being received. But if you get anything back like that, I would say hold on to it, prove what date you sent it. But at this point, you're going to hold it till they announce that they're open again. The taxpayer assistance centers, e-services help desk, both closed. I-10 telephone number is closed. So Ellie, that's Austin. So that's the whole center is closed, right? So for people that need to renew, they're not able to renew right now. We've seen no guidance on extension of I-10 renewals. I imagine that's going to be a mess when they come back. So we want to look for guidance later on that. Tax court petitions mailed after April 1st are not due until July 15th. But anything that was sent to you before April 1st, I think I said July 1st before. Anything sent to you before April 1st, you still need to respond to timely within the 90 days. Is that it? I'm done on my part?
No.
Paper filed returns are not being processed at this time. It's not really a surprise. IRS cannot send out ordered forms. I don't know that they ever sent them out. I think they have a fulfillment center, but that's correct. They can't go out. The automated phone lines are working for as much help as they can give you. You can check on your refund status if you don't have the internet or a smartphone. Mail processing has been scaled back. The online identity service verification tool is still open, but they've extended that until July 15th for response dates if needed. There it is. Okay. This is still me, Ellie?
I mean, I can do it if you want.
No, it's fine with me. The audit, collection, and appeals sections. Of course, appeals is now the Independent Office of Appeals. I don't want them to tell me I'm not using their name. Refund audits and wage and income audits are pushed back with response dates to July 15th. The same with earned income tax verification is pushed back to July 15th. I can't imagine what their backlog is going to be when they come back. The IRS has been behind 60 days on stuff, amended returns 6 months. I mean, we're going to have stuff that's sitting there a year. Appeals is still operating by phone or by webinar, by electronic Skype. Revenue officers are still available by phone, but liens are not being filed. And statute dates are not tolling, right, Ellie? Or they are tolling?
I think of the notice yesterday, they're not tolling. They're giving themselves an additional 30 days to try to resolve things, because the idea is if they get an extra month. They did say that, if they send something to you saying, please extend the statute, they're asking taxpayers to please extend the statute. And this is a good idea for your taxpayers because it extends their time to be able to appeal a decision.
Yeah. So one interesting thought in speaking with a practitioner, my friend Debbie Peters in Washington State, she was mentioning that she had some difficulty with a revenue agent. Now, she does 150 audits a year, field audits, and they're doing everything by phone, which makes it difficult. So she wanted the examiner to run her the revenue agent report. And the woman's like, well, why? We can't close it, And Debbie said, because I want to know how much we owe you so the taxpayer can pay it. Because eventually we're going to agree with you. And let's remember, interest is still running. There's a lot of room for abatement of penalties here. Interest statutorily is still running. So if you have a number you're going to agree to and the taxpayer can pay it, or the taxpayer wants to stop the interest, it's probably worth paying it or taking a guess. Installment agreements and offers in compromise. The IRS is not defaulting installment agreements. They are continuing to deduct direct debits. If you would like to stop your direct debit, you can contact your bank and have them put a debit block on. My concern here would be are you going to get charged anything by the bank to do that, right? Because you're going to have 2 or 3 of these payments. Offer and compromise payments can be suspended until July 15th. Also, the due date to make return additional documents has automatically been extended to July 15th. Question over here from Laura. If e-services is closed, taxpayers cannot change payment date for 2019 or estimates for 2020. If you're using if you're doing e-services, you call the toll-free number on the 8879. I know someone who stopped their April 15th payment the other day. You need 2 business days? 2 business days. 2 business days. It's a 24/7 automated system. Have a copy of the return in front of you. 2018 and 2019 returns related to offer and compromise cases need to be filed by July 15th, and they'll be considered timely.
If you guys want more information, the link there will take you to the IRS page, which is the People's First Initiative, where they break down everything that's being stopped and what you should do to something. So if there's a specific thing that you're looking for, check out the People First Initiative on irs.gov.
Linda, I think the HSA contribution is deferred till
it is
July 15th. Yeah. All right. I was going to say otherwise, email me and I'll look it up.
It definitely is.
Fred, this is you. PPP and EIDL.
Are you down with PPP and EIDL? All right. Let's get into the down with PPP. All right. I'm not going to go through this full comparison right here. It's a nice chart that we've received, though. Basically, if you already don't know the basics of the EIDL loan and the PPP loan, this is not the webinar for that. You should go back and watch our previous webinars to learn the ins and outs of it. This is just an overview and kind of a what's new section. All right. These are rumors. These are true. We don't know. We're presenting you with what we know at this point in time based on what we've seen out there. All right. The current rumor is, and some senators have posted this on their web pages, that the EIDL grant is limited to 1K per employee. So we're waiting on clarification for sole proprietors with no employees, what they're going to get. All right. Is this SBA? Is this Congress? We don't know. We do know a few tax pros have been reaching out to their congressional reps. We do know that Sean Reed has received some correspondence back and his rep is looking into it. What that means, we don't know. It's Congress. Okay. The EIDL grant, EIDL, EIDL, is supposed to be paid out within 3 days that the application is processed. I do know of individuals who have received money on the PPP loans already. I have not heard of anyone receiving funding from the EIDL grant at this point. There's a huge demand. There is some belief that because of that 15 days that they were given to figure it out, that after those 15 days, they're going to start processing, and that's when the 3 days come. I believe we're all in the dark on this one.
There's also some confusion about the rules, though, because if I don't apply for the loan, can I still get the grant? It's very interesting.
Yes.
So I think there's more stuff forthcoming.
You think they're going to change things, John?
There's one reading suggests that I apply for a loan because I need the money for my business. As part of the loan application, I'm asking for an advance. The advance is paid back if I get the loan. It's only if they've given me the advance and decide not to loan me any money that it converts to a grant that I don't repay. And that's simply because otherwise the advance is worthless if I can't spend it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one reading. We'll see what happens.
All right, PPP loans. This is the big one. Right now, they're having a debate in Congress, and it's not a debate. They're going to add more money to it, whether it's $250 billion, whether it's $350 billion. This is going to happen. It will happen sometime next week. The rush to get this money and the overwhelming of the system did not need to occur. I imagine everybody who needs this will get funded. All right. SBA has aligned some of its regulations with law. That is nice. The law does read that independent contractors should be included, but SBA and they've come out with no, they are not.
What that means is in your payroll costs don't include what you pay your independent contractors. I was looking at that and I was like, it's kind of vague if they don't know what we mean.
So when we go into the calculation of payroll costs, which again, this is a review, and if you don't already understand what goes into those payroll costs, go back, do some reading, do some watching. Before it was originally thought that independent contractors would be included in payroll costs, and I do have a lot of independent contractors working for me, so unfortunately I don't get that. Before they thought FIT and the employer portion and employee portion of FICA was going to be subtracted out. That's been thrown out now too. They fixed it. Payroll costs are payroll costs plus the benefits paid to your employees. So if you're paying for health insurance, if you have retirement plans, the state portion of unemployment that's based on your actual payroll is also included in your payroll costs. All right, this is a number and a formula you need to know. There was also some confusion on the time periods. A lot of banks were using the calendar year of 2019. Some were using the last 12 months. The new FAQs that came out on the 6th or the 8th or whenever it came out indicate that it's an either or scenario. So you can use either 2019 or you can use the rolling 12 months. Unfortunately, if you ramped up production in 2020, you don't get to just start from that date. I bought a few new tax practices, so my payroll has gone up, tremendously as of the first of the year. That's too bad. I got to go back from, April to March and use those 12 months to do my loan. Okay, bookmark this page. This has a lot of information on it. It has links to other pages that will get you the information you need and the information that your clients need. Oh, the great debate on Facebook. PPP assisters and agents. Okay, there are some companies out there assisting people with taking the information for the loans. All right, Cabbage.com is a good example. I know, John, you've had some good results with Cabbage, or your clients have had some good results with Cabbage so far?
It seemed easier to file through them than the banks. Let's see who gets funded and who doesn't.
Okay. What I have noticed in reading through and talking to other practitioners is those that are using smaller regional banks versus the big banks are having a more, it's more expedited loans. They're getting processed, they're being done, they're entered. I believe that Kerry Freeman has already received his PPP loan, and he's going to send money out to everybody who asks him. So just send him an email and he will send you some money. But he used a smaller bank. Use the smaller banks, you'll get a better reception. The other aspect of it, we are not supposed to be charging for assisting in the loan application. There is an agent fee included. Many of the banks are saying, tough luck, we're not paying it. Whether they're allowed to or not, I don't know. John, do you know, does that agent fee come out of their cut of the money?
There is one fee paid to the bank, and the bank is supposed to split it with us. Ha ha.
Got you. So, so a lot of them aren't. My local bank in my small town back in New York, they ask if you use an agent, so they are going to split that fee with people. All right, Ellie, this is you.
So you can keep in touch with us. There's a Facebook group called COVID-19 Best Practices for Tax Pros and Tax Offices. Many of us have been posting updates, sharing what we've been hearing. It is for tax professionals and tax offices only. If you want to get some more CEs, because our brains are probably wired to think April 15th, it means something. You can check out Tax Practice Pro on its Facebook page, or a link to its website to get updates. And then the YouTube has plenty of videos of past webinars.
So I'm going to put up one. Thank you, Ellie. I'm going to put up one more polling question here, because and remember, you have to answer both polling questions to get credit. When calculating the wages of an eligible business for a paycheck protection loan, the federal income tax withholding is included in the 2019 monthly average, included in the 2020 expenses toward loan forgiveness, both A and B, neither A nor B.
Harriet, I'm going to answer your question verbally. Sole props with no employees calculate their PPP. It's based on, I think it was line 31 of the Schedule C, the net profit on their Schedule C. I've already had one client already go through it and get his loan approved by his bank. They used his 2018 and 2019 Schedule C to calculate what his net income is to determine payroll.
I want to go back to Fred's one comment, and now I forgot about the smaller banks. So we've seen there are banks. Tom O'Connor mentioned earlier today that he has a client that is a real estate professional, no wages, right? He doesn't pay anybody wages, and all of his income's on Schedule E. His bank took the 1099s for his regular contractors and gave him a paycheck protection loan on that. So I think the smaller banks are more likely to make some of the mistakes. And one thing I want to add to that is it appears, unless you've heard differently, Fred, it appears that the banks are the ones who are going to calculate your forgiveness.
That's what I understand as well.
That's why there's some confusion. Some banks want all your bank statements now when they probably need it later. The point is, if you were incorrectly given a paycheck protection loan, and then you go back for your forgiveness and they say you weren't entitled to this and you paid contractors with it, that doesn't count either. And you're going to end up, it's okay, you're going to end up with a loan at 1%, but it's still a loan. So you do need to be careful. If something sounds too good, it may well be.
And remember on this part, okay, we keep using the word fluid. This is all fluid. More guidance is coming out. The forgiveness portion guidance has not been sent out to us yet, really. They haven't given us the FAQs for all this. So when we talk about sole proprietors and how they're being forgiven, we're using our best educated guess. The educated guess is they're going to take your net income for that filing year, divide it by 12, and that's going to be the portion used for forgiveness. What they actually going to use, we don't know. We haven't been told yet.
Hey, Fred, let's go over this real quick because less than half the people got this correct. This question. All right. When calculating the wages of an eligible business for the Paycheck Protection Program loan, federal income tax withholding, okay, is included in the 2019 average payroll, Yes, it is. Is it included in the 2020 expenses towards loan forgiveness? Yes. But we have a whole bunch of people said neither. So 42% got it correct that it's both A and B. So I think we need a whole lot of, once the rules start to come out for this and we start seeing the requests for forgiveness, I think we got to put this together to make sure people don't get hurt. Right? This is going to be the year of the tax credit. No, I'm dead serious. There's
I know.
so much out there, and this isn't something your software is going to be able to say, well, if you took A, you can't have B. But beyond that, there's going to be a lot of manual worksheets and a lot of thinking to make sure we're doing this correctly.
You can apply. Somebody asked, can you apply for the loans, the SBA loans and state unemployment? Yes. However, if you get the money, every week your state's going to make you self-certify on unemployment, and you have to include other funds that you received. Some states may decide that it counts against your unemployment benefits. Some states don't. That's going to probably be something that each state is going to be working on as they update their systems.
Yep. Schedule Cs and S corps.
I didn't have a loss.
Diane asked about a Schedule C where they use depreciation or Section 179 to result in a net loss. I don't think these are like bank loans where they're going to add things back to calculate that stuff. This is one of the reasons they push the sole props back a week to figure this stuff out. I believe that if you have a net loss on your Schedule C, you're going to be out of luck. So that is part of what happens. This is also going to affect all of those clients out there that never show a profit because they don't tell us everything. They're out of luck. Same thing with S corps, where the owner does not take reasonable comp. They have $150,000 in net income. They took $30,000 in wages. Guess what their wages are? It's the $30,000, not the $150,000.
Cool. All right. We've got anyone that needs to go. If you've been here since the beginning, you have your 50 minutes, and if you answer 2 questions, you're good. Is there anything else? More questions coming in?
Lynn Jacobs, I thought the gross wages without reductions for withholdings was the starting point for the PPP. Yes, gross wages without reductions is the starting point.
Correct.
Okay, you go from there, and then you add to that any employee benefits that you pay, health insurance, HSAs, retirements, and then also the state taxes that you pay for unemployment get added.
Don Shin asked, any idea how they're going to calculate loan forgiveness on Schedule C with no employees? We're waiting on full regulations on that. Remember, part of the PPP forgiveness allows for the person to self-certify what they used the loans for. So I'm imagining for the Schedule C people, there might be something related to that.
Gary asks, do you have to certify that you have been impacted by COVID-19? How can tax preparers certify to this? I don't think there's anybody in the country, who hasn't been impacted by COVID-19, unless you're one of those 3 states or whatever that can still do whatever you want to do and go wherever you want to go.
Keep in mind a couple of things. First, it's unprecedented that the entire country is a federally declared disaster area. So that by its very nature, that almost automatically means you've been impacted, so you don't need to certify. The second thinking is that, and I'm getting old here that I forget these things, but the second thought to what Fred said is, man, I lost it. I had a second thought, Fred.
Yeah, the moment was there, and then the moment's gone.
Must have been a lie.
Yes. No, you cannot add dividends to your wages if you're an S corp. That's what I just said before. Your wages are your wages that you use. So again, those people that taken $130,000 in dividends and $20,000 in wages, your wages are $20,000. You lived with it before, you live with it now. All right. Yes, health insurance is added to the employer portion along with HSAs. Actually, there's a whole matrix on what you can and can't add in those things that we went through thoroughly on the business webinar we did last week. So, John, you want to talk about whether we should put this money into its own separate bank account or not?
Well, I think what you should do is send it to me for safekeeping. So to give credit where credit is due, Tony Nitty mentioned this back in the beginning, that he thought there should be a separate bank account. And Tony is a partner in one of those huge companies, where, like, I don't know, the amount of money our businesses do is a rounding error probably in the size of them and the size of their clients. So the short answer is, if you're asked in 6 or 8 months to prove where you spent the money, I was talking to Mark Enzi. He's got a company with 200 employees applying for, I forgot, a $2 million, I think, payroll protection loan. I would say they want a separate bank account to account, because all of a sudden those $1,000 and $5,000 checks, they're gonna have 1,000 checks. Wouldn't it be easier when someone says, "Hi, we're here to audit you," to say, "Here's the bank account. Everything in here counts," as opposed to sorting through these things. So for a larger client, it's probably a good idea. For me personally, it's going in my bank account. I'm not going to do a separate account.
Hey, John, on the handouts, is there a block? Because some people are saying they can't download them.
Boy, I don't know. There's also people that tell me they can't log in and can't buy a free ticket. So if on the right-hand side, if you click handouts, it should bring up the 3 handouts, and then you should be able to click download, and down it comes.
I was just able to download on my end, so.
So if you can't, email John at Tax Practice Pro or Nicole at Tax Practice Pro. She's nicer than I am, and one of us will get them right out to you. If you later on go to the YouTube page, there'll be a link inside the YouTube page to pull these off a Dropbox. So whichever's most convenient for you, we'll get them right out to you.
Chris is asking if we have a list of banks that are accepting these applications if you are not a customer of them.
The 2 I would look at, one is Cabbage and the other is Pursuit Lending. Pursuit Lending, though, is going to be limited to New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. It's actually part of New York State Economic Development. It's a rebranding. We just did those for a couple of clients. They had any of these lenders that only do online lending, their platform is smoother, and all of these little hiccups that the big banks are hitting, these private lenders don't have. So Cabbage, we did one through, and we've done a whole bunch now through Pursuit Lending. So
I know there is also interbank.us, and Chris for New York banks, if you want to send Tiani an email. I know she just researched a bunch of them for our clients. It may be on a website, I don't know, but just shoot her an email and she can give you a list of what we have in our local area.
What I think is interesting, Fred, where maybe we all missed the boat, is both Cabbage and Pursuit have affiliate links.
Mm-hmm.
So had we thought about this a long time ago, we probably could have negotiated a deal and said, we have 500 accountants, we have 1,000 accountants, whatever we've got. What's the deal? What are you going to share with us? And probably we could have done something.
Are you suggesting we've had time to think?
Yeah.
Someone keeps asking, what about partners? If they're just a partner in a partnership, how do you calculate the wages? I would try seeing what happens when you use the K1 on the box that says self-employment income.
Yep.
Yes, it has to be self-employment income, because you have partners that are limited partners and they're not subject to SE tax. If you're not subject to SE tax, I can't see you being eligible.
Yeah. I mean, look, let's face it. You're going to apply and they're going to maybe come back to you and say, what about this? What about that? So I like the starting point. Just like Ellie said, line 31 of the Schedule C was a starting point. Probably the self-employment income of the K1. Someone else had said to me they applied with an add back of the depreciation. Why not? If you ask for that amount, what's the worst that'll happen? The bank approves you for less.
And you have to pay it back. So it's not that big a deal. So if you get it, you pay it back. All good.
I've got debt at more than 1%. So, so remember this, the part that isn't forgiven is converted back to a 1% loan. So
is this going to go up on your YouTube channel, John, for Tax Practice Pro?
I don't know. I think this should be like a $50 replay. Yeah, it'll be up on the YouTube channel by 6 o'clock Eastern.
There you go.
Okay.
Should we be touching these loans on behalf of a client? I would check provisions on our liability policies. I don't think so we can't charge for the application unless the bank is sharing the profit with you. So I would be doing it's document prep, right? We're taking payroll stuff they have, income statement stuff they have, maybe doing some bookkeeping for them. I mean, you can ask your liability carrier if you're concerned. I don't think you have an issue here. You know,
and if my clients need help and they're doing this, I'm going to help them anyhow. You know, we're gathering the docs, like John said, and putting them into the portals. You know, we need to make this as smooth for our clients as possible.
Pat, I would like to do this every week, but keep in mind that Ellie and Fred, everyone's putting in some time, not including the assembly of all those pretty little pictures that Ellie does. So maybe we originally were going to do this Wednesday, and then we saw the stuff coming down the line, so we said let's do it Friday. It is the end of regular tax season, so we'll see. Maybe every other week. There's a lot going on. We'll see what we're going to do.
We are looking at a basic summer series, like a Tax 101 series of things like every other week. We're working on that. So that won't be extremely high-end stuff, but it's going to be great refreshers, and it's going to be a paid one, but it's going to be low cost.
You know, so I wouldn't say I have a company philosophy, but, you know, I like to help on Facebook. I help anybody that calls. Fred helps people that call. I think that doing this stuff for free is important for the community, because our practitioner community, because there's a lot of information, there's a lot of disinformation, there's a lot of people who just repeat things. And I know I come out like a jerk if I say to you on Facebook, you know, what's your authority for that? And the answer is somebody who said somebody who knows a guy who went to the barbershop. And that isn't the way to get information. So as professionals, we tend to track it down, but doing this webinar seems to at least get it out as of today, what we think the right information is, and where, more importantly, where it came from. You'll notice all the material sends you someplace authoritative, right? Well, I would argue procedurally taxing isn't authoritative, but those folks are some of the smartest guys on the block, along with Tony Nitty writing some of this stuff. So yes, a company in bankruptcy can apply for a PPP. Fred already said this. Yeah, the question though is that whether the what the trustee will do with the money, right? Because, you know, you don't get to say, by the way, not that money, that can't go to pay the other creditors, I need it for this or that. But yes, they can apply. Ooh, Jamie, no bank account. Do they have a personal bank account? I would, if they're a sole proprietor without a business bank account, separate from a corporation or an LLC without a bank account, that's different. But if they're an independent contractor or a sole practitioner, I think you could just use your personal account.
What kind of business has no bank account?
Musicians, I bet. Artists.
She is from New Jersey, right, Jamie?
Yeah. Jamie's writing sole prop. Now she's going to write singer or musician.
Or the Gambino crime family.
No.
No, they're not in New Jersey?
Don't let them apply. Jamie, try either Pursuit Lending or Cabbage. I think they would.
Jamie, we had one client in New York who the bank wouldn't let them open a business account. We had to go through DTF to get some documents, Department of Taxation and Finance, in order to the bank would open up.
I've got a couple of things where where it wants something. All right, I had an irrigation guy the other day. Irrigation guy is a seasonal business. Every year, somewhere around Thanksgiving or the first freeze, they're done working. Somewhere around March 1st or when the plants start to flower, they go out, or the first phone call that says, can you come turn on my sprinklers? Out they go. So they needed a, They needed a payroll for February 15th. He doesn't have one. We wrote a detailed explanation and attached that where it said upload the statement. We attached the explanation rather than the payroll statement, and it seems to have worked. So, and Jamie, I would write an explanation that said I was in business February 15th, 2020, which is what the statute says, right? That's the rule. It doesn't say I had a bank account or an employee. It said I was in business. So I would attach a statement to that effect and maybe close it with, what other proof can I offer you that I was in business? Fred?
Say that one more time. I was reading questions.
If I don't have a bank account, that February 15th, 2020 comment. right?
You need to verify that you were in business on February 15, 2020.
Right. A bank account is possibly one proof, but the bank account is not required. I'm required to be in business.
I was required to submit the payroll for the week of February 15, 2020, showing that I had employees being paid that week. I don't know what a sole prop would do. I'm assuming a bank account.
Well, my point.
They asked us for his P&L up through January 15th.
My point here is that there's nothing that's. Some of the banks are either making up their own rules, or, as we know, large institutions like checklists. So somewhere along the line, I must be in business on February 15th, 2020 has become you must have payroll or you must have a bank account on that date, neither of which is true.
So, one other thing to note that's not in relation to bank accounts is we discussed this from the federal standpoint. Many of the states adopted the previous changes the feds have done. As of now, we need to sit and wait to see whether the feds are going to, whether the states are going to follow suit. Susan asked Jamie whether New Jersey is going to allow amended tax returns for the 2016 year to be extended as well. We don't know this. We're going to hope the states are all going to follow. But if you have amendments to do by April 15th, you got 5 days to figure out the state version.
And not only that, not every state extended their estimated tax payments. So I don't know if they're going to follow along with the feds now that the feds came out.
We think they should.
To watch that. So that's fun. That's why people pay us.
So I keep saying about Pursuit. Samantha's telling me Pursuit is closed now. I think she means maybe closed to funding. So I'm trying to look that up right now.
Well, that was the issue with Wells Fargo. They reached their capacity limit for the loans, and the feds released that on them. So if Pursuit is closed, they may have reached their allowable loan amounts and now must be allowed to do that again.
One interesting thing on their page as I'm looking, I knew New York City had grant programs for job retention and savings, and Shelley had told us that they had she already had clients, S corps, who had gotten money. What I didn't realize is New Jersey has a couple of grants. New York, City of Binghamton, Broome County, Erie County, Dombrowski, pay attention. Monroe County and Rochester, the North Country, all have different grants and low interest loans available. So something for you to be looking at is, does your city or your area of the state have something in place?
Yeah, Ohio just set up a small business thing. They've got money to give out, and they're dispersing something like $1.6 billion in dividends from the Workers' Compensation Fund to give back to the employers who've paid in.
I heard a rumor that in New York, Geico and Allstate were reducing auto insurance premiums 15%.
And refunding payments to some people.
Right, because they've got no claims, which is interesting. So it's a good thing,
So Marie believes that all states should follow this federal guideline. So let's just call a congressman and let them know, hey, Marie, we definitely agree with you. And that is the most fun part of the thing, is when you jump from state to state and they couple with the feds for some things and they don't couple with the feds for the others. Makes for very enjoyable tax returns, which I usually delegate to Ellie.
So, all right, I found the article Samantha might be referring to, April 2nd, where Pursuit said they would not be offering paycheck protection loans. Well, we found them because they're partnering with one of the local banks here. So that's kind of interesting, and we needed a code given to us by the bank. So, don't know. FBAR due date, October 15th. It's normally April 15th, but every year Treasury automatically extends it now to October 15th.
Laura, you wanted to know what the number was to stop automated payments? Oh,
I got it right here. What, with the IRS?
Yeah, I put it to the wrong thing. I put check refund status. If it's an automatic debit for an installment agreement, they need to go to their bank.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was if you want to stop your April 15th direct debit, I have that. Okay.
You should give that one too, because that's a good number for people to have. I have it, but not in front of me.
Yeah.
I have someone's 8879 here. So It's 888-353-4537. 888-353-4537. That's the U.S. Treasury Financial Agent.
John, what is the new due date for FBARs, please?
Okay, FBAR dates haven't changed. October
15th.
Yeah. So what happens is several years ago, we took away the June 30th due date, right, and made it April 15th. But what Treasury does every year is they move it to, they give an automatic extension to October 15th. So effectively, that's the due date with no action. Yes, Diane, FinCEN filings, the FBAR, well, actually, it's a lie. The FBAR only, the 114A, right, the FBAR, is due October 15th. Form 8300 filings are an information reporting form for your marijuana clients. No extension. They're still due 15th day. No extension. Although the IRS has said they will be a little more lenient on if you're impacted by COVID-19, they will be a little more lenient on late filing penalties. But
Laurel, if you set someone up to have their estimates come out automatically on their bank account, just call the number 2 days before the money's supposed to come out, and they'll stop it. I have one client, he set up to have his estimated tax payments come out every day they're due. Gave him the number, told him to call 48 hours in advance. They'll stop the payment. Kathy has a good point here. Something to do with installment agreements is instead of stopping them is to reduce to $1, because if they stop it, they may have to file a new form. A new installment
point. Yep.
Yeah.
Or, conversely, I don't want to count other people's money, but some folks are making more money right now than they were when they were working. There are stimulus payments coming. And, in New York, there's essentially you can't get evicted for the next 90 days. They can't even start an eviction proceeding, which probably means 5 or 6 months of no rent. So folks should have the liquidity to do some of these things. And maybe they can keep up those payments,
In the webinar that I did last week, there's a whole section on what to do for different kinds of payments and how to stop them. So that's on the Tax Practice Pro YouTube page.
Or use the Google, how do I stop my payment? That's going to be very helpful.
Yep.
IRS has that specifically under their COVID-19 stuff.
Brenda, no extension for Form 941. It's an information form. If you have to file on paper, I would file it certified mail return receipt requested. I like electronic return receipt because I can check it online. I can see the signature online, and it doesn't disappear after 6 months. So,
Sure, Nicole.
So if it comes back to you, then save it because you'll have the dates on it. If it doesn't come back to you, eventually they'll process it.
How do you get to the Google? You use your automated car.
Yeah.
You find yourself a tax apprentice and you make them go to the Google.
Oh, I've got the best Googler.
You go to Waymo, which is a Google. Michelle Plurdy Eddy. Is that related to Jeffrey?
Always, Marie. Always side conversations.
Oh, more applaud. I see that. Yep.
Yes, for the 8938.
Mark, I already told you that. It's because it's an information reporting form, but it's only fileable as part of the 1040. So by that definition, it's automatically extended.
Yes.
Okay. Anything last? If you have anything last, throw it up in the chat. Nobody uses Q&A correctly. Oh, Gino, is the trust seminar still on? No, we're trying to move it to make it virtual. Nobody wants to come to New York next month, sadly. Don says that's countrywide for the insurance companies. I haven't seen that yet for State Farm, my good neighbor. Will the EIP be deducted from next year's tax return if you get a refund? No, but if you're eligible for more, you'll get more. Michelle says no, but she smiled. How can I change bank information on my tax return for benefits of the EIDL? The EIDL and your tax return have nothing to do with each other. The EIDL is applied through the SBA, and you would give them your current bank information when you applied through the SBA. Is 2016 1040 refund claims moved to July 15th? That's specifically yes, right, Ellie?
Yes, in the new notice.
Right. That just the other day. So we're saying that CPAs and accountants cannot charge for the time we spend to provide copies and complete applications. I would say Fred, correct me, you cannot charge for completing that SBA application.
Correct.
You can charge conscionable fees for document assembly, production, photocopies, and anything else bookkeeping and accounting related to submission. No, I have that wrong?
You're correct.
Okay. Fred put his face down like I was saying.
No, I was typing because Martha wanted to know where she can watch this again because she came late and basically told her she can go to the YouTube channel and watch it. Where the link is on the last slide, I believe, right, Ellie?
Yes.
Okay.
So Ken asks, I don't know if you covered it, but do partners complete a loan app where a partnership has no payroll and no guaranteed payments? We think the self-employment income, box 17, box 15, which is that?
Not sure which box, but that's the one you would use.
One, yeah. There's two boxes, right? And one is the gross income, the income from self-employment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, it shouldn't be gross income. It should be the net income.
Yeah, net income. Sorry, net income. There's two boxes, gross and net. We want net income from self-employment. A client has poor credit. Are they looking at credit scores? They are doing a hard credit pull. So that was mentioned in somebody else's webinar that if you have a credit lock, right? If you have your credit frozen,
yes, take that off. Yes.
Take that off around the time you apply for this, just to make sure you don't have a problem.
So somebody wants to know for the stimulus payment, what happens if they don't have that bank account or they need to change that bank account? I think that if it's not in use anymore, it's going to get rejected and then they will mail out a check to you. They do recommend that if you have moved, there is a form you fill out that notifies the IRS that you have changed residences as well. And they will also have the ability to put your bank information in very shortly, whether you can change it from what was there or if it's just for people who don't have it on their returns is unknown at this time.
Nabil, IRS will be releasing the direct deposit portal within the next 2 weeks. So if you haven't used direct deposit or if your bank changed, they will allow you to change it. However, in the press release, they said if they already sent it out, you can't change your bank information. So if they sent it to a bank account that's no longer yours, typically they get a hit back from the bank and they follow up with a check.
Leo says, but you can't submit an 8822 if the IRS is closed. I do know from CP 2000s that the IRS does scrub their address database against the National Change of Address database. So you should make sure you changed your address with the post office, and hopefully that will help. Although we found out from just a funny story that's not plugged in here. The other day, Roger Nemeth was telling us they have a tool now in tax help software that can tell you who owns a cell phone number. So this is helpful if your clients are coming in. We can't use, you can't get new people into the central authorization file. So if you need transcripts, you want the person to use the Get Transcript tool and get their own transcript. Of course, they need, the same as we do, a cell phone in their name. So his tool will return whose name and what carrier. So his brother-in-law, I guess his brother-in-law, had gotten a phone 18 months ago, and they went and plugged it in, and it came back with somebody else's name. So it's obvious that the IRS is not updating their database that frequently. So that kind of explains some of our frustrations a couple of years ago with trying to authenticate ourselves.
For those people who are really stressed about bank accounts and addresses changing, TAS is open. The Taxpayer Advocate Service is open. There is no reason why you can't fax them a Form 911 explaining the situation with the stimulus check and include a change of address form and see if they can push it through for you. If you're that concerned. My hope is that IRS is going to come out and say, hey, we know people move. We know bank accounts change. This is our plan for it. If Where's My EIP comes out next week, that'll allow people who are nervous to check to see if it went out and where it's supposed to go. But I mean, TAS is also your friend in this because they have those abilities to do this sort of work.
Well, they were overwhelmed on a good day.
Yes.
So
Yes, they're really short-staffed right now.
now they're short-staffed, less technology, and a lot of times too, they act as the conduit, right? They're picking up the phone and calling this service center or that department. Well, those folks aren't there right now. So I think
they don't have a lot of foreign language speakers. For example, the task guy who speaks Spanish is for Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky.
wow.
Yeah.
John, 990 due date. There was somebody asked a question if that's been extended too. I know for the 990T, it definitely was. Isn't the 990 itself also extended or no?
It's not clear. Ellie and I had this conversation before today, and I should have mentioned it when we talked about the IRS update. Right, Ellie, we're not sure, right? Because the 990 is specifically mentioned, the 990 is not.
And the 990 is an information return.
Reporting form, and the prior guidance was no information reporting forms have been extended.
Which is why the 990T is, because that's a tax
payment, correct.
That's right.
So, but you can get a 3-month extension for the 990 just for the asking, and you can get a second 3-month extension just for the
it's just one for 6 months.
Yeah, it's one for 6 months on the 990.
5
months.
It used to be the other way. Yeah, it used to be.
Well, none of those people could ever pay me, so they don't work with me anymore.
So.
Okay.
Because the Treasury, the U.S. Department of Treasury actually says on their website that nonprofits have been extended.
But
so I'm wondering if that was the hope with the notice and the notice wasn't clear enough, but...
You mean like with the wages and how they're going to fix that again and change it?
Let me say this to you.
Yes, 1040 NRs are extended to July 15th.
I would, so if that page says that and I were going to kind of rely on it, or I think I've got some slacker clients that might need it, I would be making a copy of it, a screenshot today, saving it in the file, because that would be part of my abatement strategy. I mean, well, there's a line in Law and Order. I haven't gotten Law and Order into any of these webinars, right? So there's a line in Law and Order when Jack McCoy in the last season in 2010, when he needed something. And I kind of think about, sadly, the one bad thing I'll say about Mr. Cuomo these days is that all of his sentences start with a noun, a verb, and 9/11. So I would think most of our abatement requests for the balance of 2020 are going to start with a noun, a verb, and COVID-19, and then some level of that.
Yeah.
The 1031 requirements along with the qualified have been extended. So if you have a 1031 in play, that does get the extension as well. There was some debate on Facebook, and I saw a few people go to the laws, and after a number of hours, they have determined that, yes, it's extended.
Well, remember one thing, though, Fred, we were also arguing over whether Mnuchin, remember this whole thing, whether he has the authority to extend the deadline by himself. Does the president have the authority, and is a tweet authority? And the answer is, it sure appears to be, right?
Nowadays.
Well, Mnuchin has the authority to do, and that's what he did. The New Jersey governor, when he signed the law, he didn't even wait for the press release, right? He went to Twitter and said, yeah, I signed it. You're good. Everybody's good. So the question here becomes, the law says it, but it doesn't say it exactly and specifically. And is that what they mean? And we've seen a lot of stuff this year where it says one thing, they meant another, and do they correct it? It took these screwballs over 2 years to correct the bonus depreciation problem for interior improvements, right? For qualified QIP property. And that, you would think that was important. So I don't know. I want it in writing. Any other questions? I mean, I'm good. I keep chatting away.
I'm good.
I'm ready to do tax returns or review tax returns.
So unfair. It's lunchtime, Fred. You're going to go to lunch now.
Yeah, I actually might. Yeah, that sounds even better than tax returns. Yes, I'm going to do lunch. And I got some mac and cheese that I made last night. So, yeah.
There's still 300 folks on here. Anybody else have a question, a thought, anything?
Export returns, July 15th.
Glenn wants to know if a payment is made. So the rules before are the IRS is not allowed to use your bank information if you are paying them, only for refunds. Ellie, do you know if that's changed now? So if I have balance dues on my returns for 18 and 19. So they have my bank information because I pay electronically. Are they going to use that, or am I getting a check? That's what Glenn wants to know.
As of right now, as it stands from what IRS has, you'll be getting a check. However, they are going to be opening the direct deposit portal in the next couple weeks. So thanks everybody for attending.
All right, folks.
We appreciate your questions.
Give us a week on the CE. This will all be up on YouTube later today. If you need the handouts, look at the YouTube channel or give me an email. Take care.
Thank you all for attending. And Chris, thank you for not blocking me today. I appreciate that.
Bye.
You can hit end.